This is the video for Galaxy vocabulary. There are no Cornell notes that go with gravity, so all you need to do is make sure that you get these words and definitions down for the gravity standard. So on your table of contents, you need to make sure that you have pages 31 through 35 written down, and it may be a little bit different from Miss Sneed's or Miss Turner's class, but we should have on page 31 Planet for Sale project. Page 32 we're going to use for vocabulary for S6E1E, which is the gravity standard. Page 33 we're going to do a gravity lab, so page 33 will be the gravity lab questions. And then you will be receiving 2 Ed Helper worksheets that can be glued in on these 2 pages when you receive it back with your grade on it. So that will be the Ed Helper What's Gravity reading and the Ed Helper Gravity reading. So they're almost similar to each other, but we will be going over the vocabulary words that go with gravity. So please make sure that you go to page number 32 to copy this down. So on page number 32, number 1 says, in your table of contents on page 2 of your spiral notebook, write in the blank space next to number 32, vocabulary for S6E1C. Then number 2, on page 32 of your spiral notebook, you need to write the unit EQ, lesson EQ, and learning objective below. So the unit EQ is still the same. How has our understanding of the universe changed? Our lesson EQ is what is gravity's role in the solar system, and our learning objective is I can explain that gravity is the force that governs the motion of the solar system, and that is S6E1E. So starting on page 32, you need to write these 4 words and definitions. So number 1, gravity is the force of attraction that all objects with mass have for each other. So any object that has mass or weight will have gravity. Number 2, gravitational pull is the force that more massive objects have on less massive objects in space, such as the sun on the planets, since the sun is more massive than the planets, or the planets on the moon, since the planets are more massive than the moons. So gravitational pull is when bigger objects or more massive objects have a pull on the lesser objects, the less massive and smaller objects. Number 3, gravitational attraction. That is the force of gravity that is determined by both distance and size of objects in space, where more massive objects have more gravity while less massive objects have less gravity, and closer objects have more gravity while further objects have less gravity. So the example is Jupiter has more gravitational attraction than Mercury due to its size, which is why Jupiter has the most moons, but Mercury has more gravitational attraction to the sun than Jupiter due to distance, which is why it revolves around the sun faster. So you just need to keep in mind that gravitational attraction is affected by more massive objects having more gravity than less massive objects, and closer objects have more gravitational attraction than further away objects. So that's why we gave you the example of Jupiter and Mercury. So just remember, bigger objects have more gravity, smaller objects have less gravity. The closer the objects are in space, there's more gravitational attraction, and the further away they are in space, there is less gravitational attraction. And then number 4 is inertia. That is the tendency of planets or moons to want to move in a straight line, which would cause them to fly off into space, but is countered by the force of gravity of the sun or planets, which keeps them moving in a circular orbit around the planet. So inertia wants to keep the planets and moons going out and flying into space, but because the sun's gravity is so massive, and that's what has the most gravity in our solar system, it keeps the planets and moons moving in a circular orbit around that particular object in space. So gravity keeps them moving around, and inertia causes them to want to fly off into space in a straight line. But just remember, inertia is countered by that gravity of the bigger objects, which keeps the smaller objects moving around an orbit from the bigger objects. So please make sure that you have those 4 words and definitions copied down on page 32 of your notebook, so that way you can get started with your work in class. We will see you in class.